How the movie How the Grinch Stole Christmas was filmed? Well, we might never know how it was made, since the Grinch also stole the script. This adaptation of the beloved Christmas tale was made against the author's wishes, but it still managed to become one of the most cherished holiday classics, bringing the magic of Christmas to both kids and adults for nearly 25 years. Movies Inside Out presents How the Grinch Stole Christmas is a family fantasy comedy film from 2000, starring the brilliant Jim Carrey as the furry recluse who loathes Christmas. Which of the creators recalls working on the Grinch as a nightmare? Why were producers afraid of a box office flop? What nearly caused Jim Carrey to quit filming? And how did a CIA agent come to the rescue? We'll answer all this and more right now. Let's dive in. The creation story. The story of How the Grinch Stole Christmas began in 1998. That year, Audrey Geisel, widow of children's author Theodore Seuss Geisel, better known as Dr. Seuss, decided to auction the rights for a live-action adaptation of his story, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Back in 1966, the story had been adapted into a short animated film, which achieved great success and became a staple of Christmas TV programming. However, Dr. Seuss himself, who passed away in 1991, had been against live-action adaptations of his works due to his disappointment with the 1953 film adaptation of his story, The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T. In July 1998, Geisel's agents outlined the conditions filmmakers needed to meet to acquire the rights. Applicants were required to pay $5 million for the rights, give 4% of the film's future box office revenue, and share half the profits from merchandise sales. Additionally, the prospective director and screenwriter had to have earned at least $1 million on a previous project. Moreover, the role of the Grinch had to go to a top-tier star, such as Jack Nicholson, Dustin Hoffman, Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, or someone of equal stature. Hollywood's major studios immediately expressed interest in Geisel's proposal. 20th Century Fox planned to adapt The Grinch with Tom Shadyac as director and Jack Nicholson in the title role. Other notable filmmakers, including John Hughes and the Farrelly brothers, also presented their own visions for the project. Tim Burton was another contender to direct and had even begun developing a concept in his signature dark style. However, he eventually dropped out due to scheduling conflicts with his film Sleepy Hollow. Meanwhile, Universal Pictures pitched a version involving producer Brian Grazer and director Gary Ross. Audrey Geisel was unsatisfied with the options presented and was subsequently approached by Grazer, who decided to involve director Ron Howard. Howard had previously directed successful films like Apollo 13 and Ransom. Initially, Howard wasn't particularly interested in adapting The Grinch, although he had enjoyed watching the 1966 animated version as a child. At the time, Howard was planning to adapt Jack London's novel, The Seawolf, but Grazer persuaded him to read Dr. Seuss's book. Howard became fascinated by the character Cindy Lou and quickly developed a concept that expanded her role, delved deeper into the Who's society, and created an extensive backstory for the Grinch's difficult childhood, which explained his hatred of Christmas. In September 1998, Ron Howard officially signed on as the director. The task of writing the screenplay was assigned to Jeffrey Price and Peter S. Seaman, known for their work on the animated film Who Framed Roger Rabbit. For the storyboarding process, Howard hired cartoonists to create numerous slapstick scenes to ensure that How the Grinch Stole Christmas would feel like a live-action cartoon. According to Howard, the film's production process was highly unconventional, requiring decorators, makeup artists, and costume designers to work in reverse. While they were building the world of Whoville, the screenwriters were still developing the story. Before the final version of the screenplay was approved, it went through 8 drafts, primarily due to objections from Audrey Geisel. For instance, she insisted on removing certain inappropriate jokes, including a reference to a fictional Jewish family, the Husteins. who supposedly didn't have a Christmas tree or presents. Casting. In addition to the actors suggested by Audrey Geisel, the creators also considered Eddie Murphy, Tom Hanks, Tim Curry, Adam Sandler, and Christopher Lloyd. However, Ron Howard specifically wanted Jim Carrey to play the Grinch. Carrey immediately agreed to join the project, but the final decision rested with Audrey Geisel. The first time Geisel met Carrey was on the set of the film Man on the Moon, where he was portraying the eccentric comedian Andy Kaufman. Geisel wanted to ensure that Carrey could truly embody the green recluse. During their second meeting, Carrey instantly transformed into the Grinch, complete with his iconic grin, impressing Geisel and erasing any doubts about his suitability for the role.
Look, I don't want to make waves, but this whole Christmas season is stupid!
Anthony Hopkins served as the narrator, recording all his lines in just one day. The role of Cindy Lou went to 5-year-old Taylor Momsen, who had only appeared in a single commercial before.
Santa?
What?
Don't forget the Grinch. I know he's mean and hairy and smelly.
Her brothers, Drew and Stu, were played by Jeremy Howard and TJ Thine. Interestingly, in Ron Howard's version, Cindy Lou is 6 years old, whereas in the book and the 1966 cartoon, she's closer to 2. The role of 8-year-old Grinch was given to 18-year-old Josh Ryan Evans.
I hate Christmas! I hate it!
An actor who suffered from dwarfism and stood just 3 feet 2 inches, approximately 97 centimeters, tall. Tragically, 2 years after The Grinch was released, Evans passed away during heart surgery. Grinch's adoptive mothers, Clarnella and Rose, were portrayed by Mindy Sterling and Rachel Winfrey, who were known for minor TV roles.
Santa play. You want to hold the Santa play?
Mayor Augustus May, who was played by Jeffrey Tambor, known for his supporting roles in Meet Joe Black, and There's Something About Mary.
Invite the Grinch! Destroy Christmas!
The role of Martha May, the Grinch's love interest, went to Broadway actress Christine Baranski, also recognized for comedies like The Birdcage and Bowfinger.
But my heart belongs to someone else.
Another theater actor, Bill Irwin, was cast as Lulu, Cindy's father.
I think they were just up on the mountain playing with matches or defacing public property or...
While Saturday Night Live comedian Molly Shannon played Betty Lou, his wife.
Mrs. Betty Lou Ho!
Ron Howard made a cameo appearance among the Astonished Who's, and several of his family members also appeared in minor roles, such as his brother Clint Howard as Hubris Who and his daughter Bryce Dallas. Howard as the Surprised Who. Grinch's loyal companion, Max the dog, was played by 6 different dogs, with the primary one being a rescue dog named Kelly, whom Ron Howard adopted from a shelter. The other dogs had their fur dyed and trimmed to match Kelly's appearance. Originally, Max was intended to be a CGI creation, but the filmmakers ultimately decided that a real dog would resonate better with audiences. The filming process. Filming for How the Grinch Stole Christmas began in September 1999 and wrapped in January 2000. All sets were constructed on the Universal Studios lot. Each production designer was assigned a specific project, ensuring that every building in Whoville had its own unique charm. The interior and exterior of Mount Crumpit were built on separate stages. The mountain structure consisted of a multi-tiered wooden platform and a frame covered with foam blocks textured to resemble stone. For the view from the Grinch's front door, decorators crafted hundreds of miniature trees adorned with plastic icicles and artificial snow. About 70 tons of marble dust were used, enough to cover 9 football fields. Constructing Whoville required approximately 10,000 linear meters of polystyrene, making it the largest set ever built at the studio at the time. Many of the structures remained intact for nearly 2 decades until they were demolished in 2020 to make way for new developments.
You're glad everything is gone.
In addition to practical sets, the film made extensive use of CGI. Digital Domain created approximately 600 visual effects shots, totaling 43 minutes of screen time. For instance, the opening scene showcases about 40,000 CGI trees. For The Who's distinctive appearances and the Grinch's striking look, Oscar-winning makeup artist Rick Baker relied on practical effects and cutting-edge prosthetics. Transforming Jim Carrey into the Grinch took about 3 hours, with an additional hour required to remove the makeup. The process began with cleansing the actor's skin and applying a protective coating to shield it from adhesive. After securing the prosthetics, artists painted them green and added multiple color layers to create a realistic texture. Once the paint dried, hair was meticulously glued onto the prosthetics, completing the most challenging part of the transformation. The Grinch's costume was crafted from yak hair, dyed green, and hand-stitched onto a spandex suit. Creating the outfit took 4 months, and it weighed 10 kilograms, which is 22 pounds. Carrey described wearing it as being buried alive. The actor also wore yellow contact lenses, which caused significant discomfort. At times, the lenses became unbearable, and the team opted to digitally adjust his eye color during post-production. The first transformation into the Grinch took 8.5 hours, infuriating Carrey, who destroyed his trailer and threatened to quit. Thankfully, the makeup artists sped up the process, and Carrey resigned himself to the arduous routine. To help Carrey endure the challenging makeup, producer Brian Grazer brought in a CIA consultant to teach him techniques for coping with discomfort and torture. After a weekend of training, Carrey returned to the set a new man and managed to stay in character for 92 shooting days, crediting the consultant's advice and Bee Gees music, which he listened to during breaks. Additionally, Carrey smoked frequently to relieve stress, but used an extra-long cigarette holder to avoid igniting the flammable yak hair on his costume. One particularly difficult scene involved Carrey driving a tiny car after wreaking havoc at the Whoville Christmas celebration. Navigating the small vehicle while wearing the cumbersome costume required significant effort to maintain balance and control.
Airbag's a little slow, but that's what these tests are for!
Carrey's temper nearly derailed production when prosthetics artist Keizu Hiro briefly quit after struggling to work with the actor. Hiro recounted how Carrey's frequent outbursts and absences caused significant delays, with only 3 days worth of footage completed in the first 2 weeks. Ron Howard and Rick Baker persuaded Hiro to return, but after filming ended, Hiro needed months of therapy to recover from the stress. He later described working with Carrey as the worst experience of his career. Initially, even Universal executives were skeptical of Rick Baker's makeup design, concerned that making Carrey unrecognizable might hurt the film's box office performance. To reassure them, Howard compiled footage of himself, Carrey, Baker, and others dressed as identical Grinches. When studio executives were asked to identify Carrey among the group, they succeeded, alleviating their concerns. At the time, Baker was also working on Nutty Professor 2, The Klumps, filmed on a neighboring set. One day, Eddie Murphy, in character as Sherman Klump, visited the Grinch set and posed for a photo with Carrey in full Grinch makeup. The makeup for The Who's was equally elaborate, involving prosthetics for upper lips, noses, ears, and teeth, along with unusual wigs. To streamline the process, actor Jeremy Howard shaved his eyebrows, which made applying prosthetics easier. Notably, Howard is not related to Ron Howard, despite sharing the same last name. Since it would have been impractical to apply makeup to every extra, large crowd scenes were created using CGI, which allowed artists to generate hundreds of unique characters. Not all Who's had altered faces. Children and Christine Baranski, who played Martha May, were mostly makeup-free, as Martha needed to appear more attractive than the other Whoville women. Live actors portraying the Whos attended a Who school, where they learned how to move and act in character. Acrobats from Cirque du Soleil performed various stunts for the film. Interestingly, How the Grinch Stole Christmas was the first film since The Wizard of Oz, 1939, in which nearly all characters wore heavy makeup and elaborate costumes. Costume designer Rita Ryak created 166 unique sweaters for the Whos, all hand-knitted by 3 artisans in just 120 days, including 8 identical striped sweaters for Jim Carrey. Many of the Grinch's lines were ad-libbed by Carrey. For example, the scene where the Grinch gives Max instructions before stealing Christmas.
Your name is Rudolph. You're a freak with a red nose and nobody likes you. Then one day, Santa picks you and you save Christmas.
Was a parody of Howard's directing style, which Howard loved and included in the final cut. Another unscripted moment occurred when Carrey failed to knock items off a table with one motion as planned. Improvising, he swiped the items off manually and overturned the table. At his brother Clint's suggestion, Ron Howard donned full Grinch makeup to empathize with the actors enduring the grueling process. When Howard surprised the crew in costume, Carrey initially mistook him for a poorly cast stand-in, but later appreciated the gesture. However, Howard avoided wearing the yellow contact lenses, prompting Carrey to jokingly remind him of their discomfort. The film frequently used Dutch angles to create a tilted, surreal effect. This technique involved angling the camera to make sets appear unstable. The Grinch was the final film for cinematographer Donald Peterman, who died in 2011. Peterman, who sustained severe injuries during the production of Mighty Joe Young, 1998, struggled physically during The Grinch, and his assistant eventually took over his duties. The original score was composed by Oscar-winning James Horner, who collaborated with Will Jennings and Mariah Carey to create the songs Where Are You Christmas, performed by Faith Hill, and Christmas, Why Can't I Find You, sung by Taylor Momsen.
Where are you, Christmas?
Where are you, Christmas?
The film contains several nods to Dr. Seuss's works. In the final scene, Cindy Lou gives Max a plate of green eggs and ham, referencing the book of the same name. When the Grinch leaves Whoville after the Christmas party, a statue resembling Horton from Horton Hears a Who is visible. Coincidentally, Jim Carrey later voiced Horton in the 2008 animated adaptation. Movie mistakes and errors. No movie is free of errors, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas is no exception. But let's admit, even in this chaotic masterpiece, the goofs only add charm to the Green Grouch. The mystery of hatred. At the beginning of the film, the narrator insists that no one knows why the Grinch hates Christmas.
The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season.
Top of the day!
Flatfoot. Now please, don't ask why.
Yet, surprise, most of the movie is dedicated to explaining this very hatred. Perhaps the narrator didn't read the script. The magic gift box. A box falls at the Grinch's feet, only to disappear in the next shot and reappear as a completely different gift. Apparently, even presents in Whoville enjoy surprising everyone. Enchanted letters. The Grinch has only 2 letters in his hands, yet somehow manages to distribute dozens into the mail slots. Perhaps he's secretly a wizard of postal magic. The self-healing bulb. When Betty Lou strings up Christmas lights, a green bulb burns out. But just moments later, it's magically glowing again. The fickle garland gun. Martha May fires her garland gun with a mixture of calm precision and nervous shaking, depending on the shot. Meanwhile, the lights on the garland sometimes turn on while still on the spool, and other times only after firing. It seems the garland can't decide if it wants to be a weapon or mere decoration. Max's disappearing collar. Max's collar vanishes and reappears throughout a scene. Perhaps he decided festive fashion wasn't for him before changing his mind. A tired dog. Max is seen dragging a red sack into the house, but he abandons it halfway through. It seems the poor dog decided the humans could handle the rest. The traveling Santa cookie. The Santa-shaped cookie young Grinch is offered mysteriously changes hands between shots. It must be the most popular treat at the party. The phantom beard. The children claim that 8-year-old Grinch is growing a beard, yet there's no sign of one on his face. What exactly did he shave when he decided to start fresh? The vanishing kids. Children leave a classroom, but are still visible in the next shot. Looks like they couldn't decide whether to leave or stick around. Eyes without lenses. In some scenes, the Grinch's eyes lose their yellow hue. Perhaps Jim Carrey gave his contact lenses a break, and the oversight slipped past post-production. Inaccurate moths. The Grinch releases moths to destroy Christmas stockings. But there's a problem. Adult moths don't eat fabric. That's the job of their larvae. These must be special moths. Multiplying green bottles. At first, there's 1 green bottle in the fridge, then 2, and then back to 1. They must be self-replicating. The mood-swinging sheriff hat. The sheriff's hat changes position, depending on the angle. It seems even hats want their share of the spotlight. All these quirks only add to the film's whimsical nature, reminding us that anything can happen in Whoville. Did you spot any of these mistakes? Or maybe you found your own favorite goofs? Share your thoughts in the comments. Deleted scenes and bloopers. During certain television broadcasts, a special program aired following How the Grinch Stole Christmas that showcased deleted scenes not included in any official version of the film. These scenes featured extended and previously unseen moments, such as the Grinch causing chaos undercover in Whoville, additional moments of the Who's preparing for Christmas, Cindy Lou questioning her father about the Grinch, Lou being called to school because Cindy wants to write a report about the Grinch musing about life in his cave and terrorizing the Who's, Martha May and Betty Lou participating in a Christmas lights competition, the Grinch trying on different outfits, a scene revealing that the stolen Christmas tree belongs to a sleepwalking sheriff, whom the Grinch locks in a closet. Now, let's have some laughs with a blooper reel featuring funny moments from the set. Watch as actors forget their lines, trip, fall, and lose pieces of prosthetic makeup during filming.
No, Kelly! No, Kelly! Kelly, no! No! Kelly! Kelly, no! No, no!
I'm a loose cannon. And I'm...
Okay, yeah. Oh, sorry. I got that.
Worldwide recognition. The first screening of How the Grinch Stole Christmas took place on November 8, 2000, attended by Universal executives, the film's creators, and other industry representatives. On November 17th, the film was released widely across the US and Canada, followed by premieres in other countries from November 23rd to December 1st. Shortly before the film's release, the producers launched a massive promotional campaign. This included the sale of numerous toys featuring the main characters, while many stores temporarily transformed into real-life Whovilles, complete with giant Grinch figures. In addition, the studio organized a holiday event called Grinchmas to coincide with the film's release, an event that has since become a recurring feature in theme parks. How the Grinch Stole Christmas grossed $345.1 million at the box office, $260 million in the US and Canada, and $85.1 million internationally. With a production budget of $123 million and an additional $40 million spent on marketing, the film became the 6th highest grossing movie of 2000, the most successful Christmas film since Home Alone, and the highest earning movie in both Ron Howard's and Jim Carrey's careers at the time. Carrey earned a hefty $20 million paycheck for his role as the Grinch. Critics were lukewarm on the film. They almost unanimously praised Jim Carrey's stellar performance, noting that his humor added life to what they considered a dull and incoherent story. However, some critics argued that the Grinch's portrayal was too frightening for a children's tale. Despite mixed reviews, the film won an Academy Award for Best Makeup, with additional nominations for Best Art Direction and Best Costume Design. The British Academy of Film and Television Arts, BAFTA, also awarded the film for its incredible makeup work. Jim Carrey was nominated for a Golden Globe in the Best Actor in a Musical or Comedy category, and MTV Movie Awards crowned him Best Villain. The Saturn Awards recognized the film in 8 categories, with wins for Best Music and Best Makeup. On the other hand, the film wasn't spared criticism, as it was nominated for 2 Golden Raspberry Awards, Worst Remake or Sequel, and Worst Screenplay. In 2018, Universal released another adaptation of Dr. Seuss's tale, the animated film The Grinch, featuring Benedict Cumberbatch as the voice of the title character. While it achieved even greater commercial success, critics found it similarly unimpressive. Following The Grinch, Jim Carrey went on to star in more hit comedies, and later ventured into dramatic roles, though with mixed success. Since the mid-2010s, his appearances on screen have become less frequent, and in 2022, he announced a hiatus from acting. Taylor Momsen later revealed that The Grinch had a mixed impact on her life. As a child, she was often mocked and called Grinch Girl, making her feel like an outsider. She acted in several more films and TV series before transitioning to music. For the past 15 years, she has been the frontwoman of the rock band The Pretty Reckless. For the rest of the cast, How the Grinch Stole Christmas wasn't a turning point in their careers, and they continued to appear primarily in lesser-known films and TV projects. For Ron Howard, the film was truly a family project. Not only did he involve several relatives in the production, but he also dedicated the movie to his mother, actress Jean Spiegel Howard, who adored Christmas above all other holidays and passed away in September 2000. Howard has continued to direct a wide range of films, and soon after The Grinch, won 2 Academy Awards for A Beautiful Mind. Thanks to Jim Carrey's inimitable comedic talent and the creator's extraordinary efforts, How the Grinch Stole Christmas remains one of the most beloved holiday films, bringing millions of viewers back to the idea that goodness can always triumph over evil. So, which version of The Grinch is your favorite?